What if the school bully picked on the wrong girl, one whose quiet strength came from a story too deep for anyone to understand? This is the story of Maya Johnson, a soft-spoken new student who becomes the target of Bryce Carter, the toughest kid in school. He thinks she's weak, just another easy target. But what he doesn't know, is that Maya's strength was built by a man who's faced real battles. Stay until the end, because what begins as a bully's game, ends with a lesson he'll never forget. The morning sun spilled over the wide parking lot of Clearwater High School, glinting off rows of cars and buses. The air was cool but bright, filled with the sound of laughter, chatter, and footsteps. Maya Johnson stepped off the bus, holding the straps of her old backpack tightly. She looked up at the massive brick building, her reflection caught for a second in the glass doors. New school. New faces. Same plan, stay invisible. This was her 5th school in 4 years. Every time she started over, it felt the same, the nervous silence, the curious stares, the whispers. Maya wasn't shy, she was just tired. As she entered the hallway, the smell of perfume and disinfectant mixed with the metallic clang of lockers. Groups of kids laughed near the vending machines, cheerleaders shared makeup in front of mirrors, and football players shoved each other near the trophy case. Maya kept walking, eyes down, voice quiet, footsteps small. She wasn't here to make friends. She was here to finish the year, keep her head down, and make her dad proud. Her father's words echoed in her mind as she opened her locker. You don't need to fight every battle, Maya. But when someone crosses the line, stand your ground. He'd said that the night before, as she packed her things. His deep, calm voice carried weight, the kind of voice that came from experience. Maya smiled faintly at the memory, until she heard it. Yo, who's the new girl? The voice was sharp, mocking. She turned slightly to see Bryce Carter, leaning against the lockers with his crew, tall, athletic, and full of the kind of confidence that comes from fear, not respect. Hey, Bryce said, stepping closer, you lost or something? Maya shook her head. No. No. He grinned. Then what's your deal? You don't talk much, huh? I'm just trying to get to class, she said softly. Oh, Bryce mocked. She's shy. That's cute. His friends laughed, a hollow sound that made Maya's chest tighten. She turned back to her locker, trying to ignore them. Hey, I'm talking to you, Bryce said, slamming the locker next to hers. The bang echoed through the hall. Maya froze. The noise had drawn attention, heads turned, whispers spread. A girl nearby called out, "Leave her alone, Bryce." But Bryce just smirked. Relax, I'm just saying hi. Maya took a step back. Her heartbeat was steady, but her hands clenched at her sides. Not out of fear, out of control. She remembered her father's voice again. Never let anger make your decisions. That's what they want. Stay calm. That's how you win. So she looked Bryce in the eyes and said quietly, you should pick your battles more carefully. The laughter stopped. For a moment, he didn't know what to say. Then he chuckled. Oh yeah? You gonna teach me how to fight? Maya didn't answer. She just closed her locker and walked away. Bryce's smile faded as he watched her leave, there was something about her that got under his skin. Something calm. Something unshakable. As Maya walked toward her class, the faint light from the windows fell across her face. Inside, she whispered to herself. Stay calm. Just like Dad taught you. And somewhere, hundreds of miles away, a framed medal hung above a folded uniform, the nameplate below it read. Captain Robert Johnson, U.S. Army, Silver Star recipient. Maya's father had fought real wars. And soon, Bryce Carter would learn, she had his same courage. By lunchtime, everyone at Clearwater High had already heard about the new girl who stood up to Bryce Carter. Whispers floated through the halls. She didn't even flinch when he slammed the locker. He's gonna get her back. Bryce always does. Maya walked through the cafeteria line with her tray, pretending not to hear. The smell of pizza, fries, and spilled soda filled the air. Dozens of voices mixed into a steady roar, but under all that noise, she could still feel it, the eyes following her. She found an empty table near the back and sat down, quietly eating her sandwich. She didn't want attention. She just wanted peace. But peace never lasted long around Bryce. A few minutes later, laughter rose near the entrance. Bryce and his friends walked in like they owned the place, loud, confident, untouchable. He spotted Maya almost instantly. "Well, look who's sitting all alone," he said, grinning. "Guess nobody told her that seats like that are reserved for losers." His crew laughed, their voices sharp. Phones lifted. Someone started recording. Maya didn't move. She just looked up at him, calm, silent, her expression unreadable. Bryce stepped closer. "You think you're better than everyone, huh? Talking back to me like you're special." She shook her head slowly. "No. I just think kindness doesn't cost anything." The words hit harder than he expected. His smirk faltered for a second, just a second, before he scoffed. "Yeah, whatever. Let's see if you're still kind after this." He reached for her tray, and flipped it. Food splattered across the floor. The whole cafeteria gasped. Maya froze. The sound echoed. For a heartbeat, everything was still. A teacher started moving toward them, but Maya raised a hand slightly, stopping her. Her eyes never left Bryce's. "You done?" she asked softly. The simplicity of her voice cut deeper than shouting ever could. It was steady, not scared, not angry. Just, controlled. Bryce blinked, confused. "What did you say?" "I asked if you're done. Because if hurting me makes you feel strong, you're weaker than you think." The cafeteria went dead silent. Even his friends stopped laughing. Bryce's jaw tightened, but before he could speak, Maya bent down, picked up her tray, and wiped the floor with a napkin. She didn't cry. She didn't yell. She just cleaned up, calmly, gracefully, like his cruelty wasn't worth her energy. Then she stood up, met his eyes, and said quietly. "You can throw food at me, Bryce. But you'll never break me. I was raised to handle worse than this." And with that, she walked away. Everyone in the cafeteria stared, at her, at Bryce, at the quiet power that had just shut down the loudest voice in school. Bryce tried to laugh it off. "What's wrong with you all? She's just acting tough." But even his friends didn't join in this time. Later that day, in the teacher's lounge, Coach Ramirez leaned against the counter, frowning. "That girl. Maya Johnson. She's different," he said to the school counselor. "I saw how she handled Bryce. Calm as a soldier under fire." The counselor nodded. "Her file says she was adopted a few years ago. No trouble, no attitude. Just quiet." "Adopted?" Ramirez asked. "By who?" The counselor checked the record. "A man named Robert Johnson." Ramirez's eyes widened slightly. "Wait, Captain Robert Johnson? The war hero?" The counselor looked up. "You know him?" Ramirez nodded slowly. "Everyone in the military world knows that name. That man's a legend. Saved 12 men in Afghanistan, took a bullet to the shoulder and still carried them out." They exchanged a look. Out in the hallway, Maya walked silently toward her next class, unaware that whispers of her father's name were already spreading through the school. And Bryce? He was starting to realize that maybe, he had picked on the wrong girl. The next morning, Clearwater High felt different. People whispered in the hallways, not about Bryce this time, but about Maya Johnson. "That's her, the girl who stood up to him. Did you hear? Her dad's a soldier or something. Rumors spread faster than wildfire. Some said her father was a general. Others said he was in the CIA. No one really knew. But every story carried the same tone: respect. Bryce, meanwhile, was fuming. His reputation was slipping. He'd ruled this school for years through fear, and now one quiet girl had taken that away. At football practice, he missed passes, snapped at teammates, and slammed his helmet into the ground. "Yo, man, chill," one of his friends said. "You're letting that new girl get in your head." Bryce glared. "She doesn't scare me." But the truth was, she did, not because of what she'd done, but because of what she hadn't. She never raised her voice. Never flinched. Never gave him what he wanted: fear. That silence haunted him. The next day, during history class, Bryce sat 2 rows behind Maya. He could see her calm posture, her neat notes, her quiet focus. He couldn't stand it. When the teacher turned to write on the board, Bryce flicked a small paper ball at her desk. It bounced and rolled across her notebook. Maya ignored it. He did it again. Still nothing. A third time. The class started to notice. Some students frowned. A few whispered, "Bryce, stop." Finally, Maya turned around, slowly, and looked at him. No anger. No fear. Just quiet disappointment. "You keep doing this," she said softly, "because you think it makes you strong. But it doesn't. It just shows how broken you are inside." The class went silent. Bryce's face flushed red. Before he could respond, the door opened. Coach Ramirez stepped in, whispering something to the teacher. They both looked at Maya. "Miss Johnson," the teacher said gently, "the principal would like to see you for a moment." Coach Ramirez stood beside him, arms crossed. "We just wanted to talk, that's all." Maya sat quietly. Ramirez leaned forward. "You know, I served in the army for 6 years. Heard about a man named Captain Robert Johnson. Saved a whole team under fire. You related to him?" Maya hesitated for a second, then nodded. "He's my dad." Both men exchanged a look of quiet admiration. Mr. Daniels said softly, "That's quite something, Maya. You should be proud." "I am," she replied. "But he always says, courage isn't about medals or battles. It's about how you treat people." Ramirez smiled. "Sounds like him. I met him once. He said something I'll never forget: the loudest man in the room is usually the weakest." Maya's eyes lowered. "That sounds like Bryce." Mr. Daniels sighed. "We're handling him. But Maya, if you ever feel unsafe." "I'm fine," she interrupted gently. "He's just noise. I've seen real courage. Real fear. What he's doing, it's nothing." Her words hung in the air, quiet, steady, powerful. Outside the office, Bryce waited near the lockers, pretending to text. When Maya stepped out, he called after her. "So it's true then? Your dad's some kind of hero?" She turned to face him, her voice calm. "He's not some kind. He's the kind that protects people like you, even when you don't deserve it." Bryce didn't respond. For the first time, he had no comeback. As Maya walked away, the hallway felt heavier, like everyone had just witnessed something shift. Bryce Carter, the school's loudest bully, had finally met his silence. And that silence was louder than anything he'd ever said. The following week was chaos at Clearwater High. Everyone knew about Maya's father now, not just the soldier rumor, but the truth. Captain Robert Johnson, a decorated war hero, had saved 12 men during a mission in Afghanistan. His photo, once buried in old news articles, was now circulating on social media. "Bro, that's her dad," students whispered in the hallways. "She's literally a war hero's daughter, man. No wonder she doesn't flinch. Everywhere Bryce went, he felt eyes on him, mocking, judging, whispering. He could almost hear their thoughts. The bully got humbled by the war hero's kid. By Thursday, he couldn't take it anymore. It started in the cafeteria. Maya sat alone at her usual table, unpacking her lunch. The sunlight poured through the large windows, glinting off her silver bracelet, one engraved with the words, "Be brave, not loud." Bryce stood across the room, fists clenched around his tray. His friend sat nearby, uneasy. "Yo, Bryce, don't," one warned. "She didn't even do anything, man," another added. But Bryce wasn't listening. The humiliation burned too deep. He slammed his tray onto the table beside her. "So this is your big game now," he sneered. "Hide behind your daddy's name." Maya looked up calmly. "I don't hide behind anyone." "Oh, right. You just let everyone else do the talking for you." He leaned closer, voice sharp. "Let me guess, he told you to feel sorry for bullies like me, huh?" Maya's gaze stayed steady. "He taught me to see them. Because most bullies start as broken kids who never got help." The cafeteria went silent. 100 eyes watched. Even the lunch lady froze mid-scoop. Bryce's jaw tightened. "You think you know me?" "I think," Maya said softly, "you hate yourself more than you hate me." Her words hit him like a punch. For a moment, Bryce saw flashes of his own life, the nights his father came home drunk, the yelling, the bruises he hid under long sleeves. He shoved the thoughts away and snapped, "You don't know anything." He grabbed her tray and threw it across the table, food splattering across the floor. Gasps filled the room. Before anyone could react, a deep voice boomed from behind. "Bryce Carter." It was Principal Daniels, and beside him stood a tall, broad man in a dark jacket. His eyes were sharp, his posture perfectly straight. Bryce turned, and froze. The man stepped forward, calm but commanding. "Maya," he said gently, "you all right?" She nodded. "I'm fine, Dad." A ripple went through the crowd. That was him. Captain Robert Johnson. Bryce felt his stomach twist. The principal's voice was low but firm. "Bryce, my office. Now." Robert Johnson turned his gaze toward Bryce, not angry, but disappointed, heavy, measured. "Son," he said quietly, "you don't know what pain is. But you sure look like someone who's been carrying it." Bryce looked down, unable to meet his eyes. Robert continued, "You want to make others feel small because that's the only time you feel big. But that's not strength. That's fear." The room was still. Even the air felt tense. Then Robert placed a steady hand on Maya's shoulder and nodded to the principal. "Take him. But don't punish him for being lost. Punish him for not wanting to find himself." Later that afternoon, as Bryce sat outside the office, he could still hear Robert Johnson's voice echoing in his head. He didn't yell. He didn't threaten. He just spoke truth, and somehow, that hurt more than any punishment ever could. For the first time in years, Bryce didn't feel angry. He just felt tired. And as Maya walked past him quietly, he whispered, "I'm sorry." She paused, turned slightly, and said, "Then stop being who you were, and start being who you could be." 3 days passed since the cafeteria incident, and Bryce Carter hadn't shown up to school. His locker stayed untouched. His desk sat empty. Most students assumed he'd been suspended, and they were right. But what no one knew was that Bryce's life had changed far beyond detention or punishment. Because someone had come to see him. It was Saturday morning. Bryce sat on the front steps of his worn-down house, kicking at the cracked pavement. His bruised knuckles rested against his knees. Inside, he could hear his father yelling at the TV again, same as every weekend. The noise stopped when a dark SUV pulled up in front of the house. The door opened, and Captain Robert Johnson stepped out, wearing jeans and a plain jacket. Bryce froze. What are you doing here? Robert approached calmly. Your principal gave me your address. Said you could use someone to talk to. Bryce scoffed. You came to lecture me again? No, Robert said. I came to listen. That answer threw Bryce off. He stayed quiet. Robert sat down on the step beside him, looking out at the quiet street. You know, I've seen tougher kids than you break down in war zones. You remind me of one of them. Bryce frowned. Yeah. What happened to him? Robert's voice was steady. He learned that anger doesn't protect you. It just keeps everyone else out, the people who might actually help. Bryce swallowed hard. You think I like being this way? My old man. He stopped mid-sentence. Robert didn't push. You don't have to explain. Pain doesn't make you weak, son. Hiding from it does. For the first time in a long while, Bryce's eyes filled with tears. He didn't fight back. Monday morning, Bryce came back to Clearwater High. No one expected to see him. The whispers started again, but this time, he didn't react. He just walked, not loud, not cocky, just quiet. In homeroom, Maya looked up as he entered. Their eyes met. Bryce hesitated, then walked over. Can I sit here? Maya nodded silently. After a long pause, he said, Your dad came to my house. Maya blinked, surprised. He did. Yeah, Bryce said, his voice breaking slightly. Didn't yell. Didn't threaten. Just listened. He stared at the desk. I've been angry for so long, I forgot how to be anything else. Maya studied him, not with pity, but with quiet understanding. My dad always says, she replied, courage isn't just about fighting others. It's about facing what's inside you. Bryce nodded. Yeah, he said something like that to me too. Weeks passed, and the change in Bryce was impossible to ignore. He stopped hanging around his old crowd. He started volunteering at the school's veterans program, the same one Robert Johnson had founded. Sometimes, Robert would stop by after school, and the two would talk, not as enemies, but as two people trying to heal from different kinds of battles. One day, after a meeting, Robert handed Bryce a folded piece of paper. What's this? Bryce asked. Application, Robert said with a small smile. Community service scholarship. It's not about your past, son. It's about what you do next. Bryce looked at the paper, then at him. Why me? Robert's voice was calm. Because every soldier deserves a second chance, even the ones still fighting themselves. Months later, Clearwater High's graduation day arrived. As names were called, cheers echoed through the auditorium. When Bryce Carter came up, a wave of applause filled the air, even from students who once feared him. And in the crowd, Maya smiled quietly beside her father. After the ceremony, Bryce walked up to them. Thank you, he said softly. Both of you. Robert extended his hand. You did the work, son. You earned your peace. Maya smiled. Told you, you're not who you were. Bryce nodded, eyes glistening. Yeah. Guess I finally figured that out. As the sun dipped behind the football field, the three of them stood together, the soldier, his daughter, and the boy who learned that true strength isn't about power. It's about change.